PC Perspective's coverage of the 2013 Consumer Electronics Show is brought to you by AMD and the second generation A-Series APUs. Hey everybody, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast, special final CES edition.
Thank God.
We didn't do a podcast last night, guys. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah.
People noticed.
That's nice that people notice.
You know whose fault it was?
Can do the intro this time?
Sam Adams.
No intro.
Why would it say
We're rolling deep.
Rolling deep.
Sam Adams.
Sam Adams?
Beer?
Yeah. But I didn't have any Sam Adams yesterday.
I did.
Oh, well, that explains a few things.
I'm Ryan Schrout.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Alan Malventano.
I'm Ken Addison.
Don't worry, Alan just looks like that all the time.
Pretty much.
So we didn't do a podcast yesterday, so we'll have several more things to talk about today. Let's go through kind of what we saw at the show. Let's start with we went to AMD first yesterday.
Yeah.
And we talked about the roadmap. You posted a story just a little bit ago about kind of what their new products are. Give us the quick and dirty on what their new important lines are going to be.
Kabini, Timash, and Kaveri.
All right. What is let's start with Kabini. I guess Kabini and Timash are based on the same design, essentially, right?
Yes. Yeah, they're all they're based on the Jaguar cores and GCN graphics architecture.
Okay.
These are the low budget, low power chips. Pretty small relative to most other SoCs. Still pretty powerful.
What kind of wattage range are we talking?
Going anywhere from, I think 3.9 watts for Timash at the lowest, and it goes to 15 to 18 watts at the high end.
Quad-core Kabini.
Yeah.
These are quad-core SoCs.
Yes, they are. They're native quad-core SoCs.
And I thought what was interesting was they were surprised by how well the chips came out. Is that fair to say?
It seems so.
They were surprised how much performance they were able to get out of quick and easy spins.
Yeah.
And so they're, I would say, more excited about this part than they might have been initially just a few months ago.
Well, possibly, but I mean, when we consider how successful Bobcat and the Brazos architecture has been for AMD, it's no surprise that they were excited about this. As you well remember, or maybe not, the original Brazos 2.0 was going to be just a 28 nanometer shrink,
right?
And potentially, some small IPC improvements and up to quad core. Well, they canceled those out, and they got Kabini coming, and it's a good looking chip. Supposedly about 50% more performance per watt. Well, yeah, per clock overall than the previous Bobcat, but that's a combination of both CPU performance and graphics.
Okay. They gave us an idea of price points, like kind of in the $349 to $399.
Yeah, they're going to be inexpensive, and they're probably going to be the most inexpensive x86 quad cores that you could possibly buy.
Yeah.
This does not count, of course, the ARM products. There's some inexpensive ARM quad cores that are coming up. So they're very excited about that. It's going to be in a bunch of tablets. It's going to be in a bunch of convertibles. They haven't announced any design wins. These are going to be second quarter products, so they're pretty much right around the corner.
Second quarter's soon.
Yes.
That'd be interesting for them. It kind of gets AMD back to a place of competitiveness in a CPU battle.
Exactly, and then
not the high-end desktop, but in an important one nonetheless. Not huge ASPs,
but it's a growing market with these type of. How many convertibles did we see?
Yes.
Yes. How many tablets did we see?
Just a few.
One or two. Yeah. And so this is something that AMD has. It looks like they're doing a little bit better this year in getting into these things, and they should have very competitive parts with the x86 products, especially against Intel. Intel doesn't have really an advantage with them with Clover Trail anymore because those are 32 nanometer parts. Kabini is a 28 nanometer TSMC. It has some advantages over Intel's 32 nanometer, so it's going to be a little bit smaller, a little bit more power efficient, and Intel will not have an answer for that until 2014 with their first 22 nanometer parts.
Interesting. So what about
I missed
Kabini.
one. I
What's
missed
that?
one. That was Richland. Richland's going to be coming up at second quarter as well.
right? So okay, Richland is a modification of current Trinity parts.
Correct.
So it has a slightly redesigned graphics portion, we think.
Yeah, I think it's actually significantly redesigned in how they lay it out. I don't think it's any bigger, but
We think it'll still have the 384 core count or something like that.
yeah, it probably will. They said they went from 3 SIMD, the big
3 SIMD units.
to 6, and so it's going to be able to be a little bit more granular in how it handles work. And I think that they're expecting a pretty significant increase in graphics performance just from Richland, and also in terms of manufacturing, they're a little bit more comfortable with the 32 nanometer process from Global Foundries. They say that at the same TDPs, they're going to get a couple of hundred extra megahertz out of these products. And at the lower level, they didn't do any real design changes on the CPUs, but they did do some microcode and some low-level BIOS tweaks that they're saying will be, we'll give them about 15% more performance than current parts right now. So, in pure CPU performance, that's pretty good for the minimal amount of work that they not minimal amount of work, but for the work that they did.
And then following that, in the kind of desktop mainstream part, will be Kaveri.
Correct.
And that is a completely new part.
Yep.
The first fully integrated HSA capable part, meaning that the memory subsystem between the CPU and GPU portions is now completely merged.
Yes.
Essentially. And that is sooner than they'll probably be sampling before the end of the year, maybe not shipping by the end of the year.
No, I think they said that they're going to be trying to ship at the end of the year, but it's not going to be you can go out and buy it. I mean, they're going to be shipping to a lot of the partners.
Yeah, that's what I meant by okay,
yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah, and so we'll probably get a review of that probably next December.
Right.
And we'll get some sneak peeks. They're doing a couple of things there. One, it is the steamroller core, which is another advancement of the initial bulldozer. We had bulldozer, pile driver, now steamroller. Steamroller was it's a pretty significant redesign, and Jim Keller, who came in back to AMD from Apple, had
was AMD
apparently
left, came back.
Yeah, had apparently a large part in dictating what they need to do with this particular CPU, and Jim Keller is apparently a very smart individual. This is the second GCN based part. Kabini is the first.
Okay.
But it's the first HSA enabled, so it has the shared memory addresses. I don't think any of those things that are Kabini has, but they didn't go into that much detail. And plus,
Not yet.
They're still kind of wondering how they want to place Kabini when it comes to HSA and that. So we'll see. But it's a better looking part. It's coming out earlier than expected. A lot of people originally expected around fall of 2013. That got pushed back to second quarter of 2014, and now they're able to pull it back into a late 2013. They're going to hit desktop first and then move on to mobile in probably second quarter of 2014. Why they're doing this is they just want to get product out onto the street, and being able to hit a 95 watt or 100 watt TDP and get decent bins and yields is a whole lot easier than trying to say, hey, this is a brand new part. We need to get it down to 17 watts, 10 watts, whatever. And I guess the last thing that we need to talk about with this is they confirmed that Kaveri is going to be a 28 nanometer Global Foundries product, so it's not being made by TSMC, unlike Kabini, which is going to be total TSMC. So it's good to hear that Global Foundries will have a workable and ramping 28 nanometer process that they can create CPUs with.
Yeah, so they're split. They continue to be split on the manufacturing side. And But I mean, overall, I think we came away not really expecting anything from AMD on the CPU side.
Yeah.
To learning a little bit about the roadmap and being a little bit impressed. Cautiously optimistic, I guess I would say again, because it's nice to put everything on paper. Technically, AMD will have a lead in that kind of Kabini to Mosh area for a little while, but they need to execute on it. We need to have systems available and that kind of stuff.
And, we didn't see any systems whatsoever in their little pavilion, did we?
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, somebody stole several of their tablets and systems.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. That
we did post a video today of the Tamash tablet.
Yes.
Prototype running Dirt 3 at 1080p.
Yep.
Which is actually pretty cool. It actually looked really good. I said Dirt 3. It's Dirt Showdown.
And then also, what was the Modern Warfare 3?
Yeah, but that was on a current Z60.
Oh, okay.
APU.
Yeah.
So the only thing we saw was that one Tamash.
Dirt Showdown. Gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say AMD had a better than expected showing on it. Let's see who else we talked to. We talked to OCZ. This is where we bring Alan back into the conversation. Pick up the microphone. There he is. How's it going, buddy?
Hi.
So tell me what OCZ showed you.
OCZ showed me a Vector PCIe SSD.
Okay, Vector being their new controller, completely built from the ground up by them. The first one that is all OCZ.
OCZ / Indie Links, if you want to call it. Yeah, they're still badging them.
Sure. But so what stands out?
Okay, so it's basically 2 of their Vector SSDs put onto a PCI Express card, similar to how the Revo drive worked with SandForce.
Okay.
Uses the same VCA 2.0, that little microcontroller that scales up really well on when you do higher queue depths.
Right.
In other words, it can handle command queuing and pass it through to the SSDs, so they still scale up real well.
Good.
So it's basically just a Revo drive that's has the improved Vector SSDs behind it. Which the part we don't know is the cost. And since the big deal with the Vector was the cost being very low, hopefully they'll be able to have this as a very cost-effective PCI Express solution. But we'll see.
We're waiting on Josh. Go ahead, buddy. Make your drink.
Josh is making a martini.
We're relaxing here. It's our last day.
Shaken, not stirred, Josh.
He's getting some ice cubes.
He wants a weak martini then?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Whether I need it or not.
So what else did they show? Okay, no pricing on it, but better performance.
Yeah, it was doing...
Are they going to keep the same kind of price per gig ratio out of it?
Well, the VCA 2.0 stuff adds a little bit to it.
Okay.
But, I mean, there's going to be some kind of a premium there. But I don't think it's going to be a huge premium. Jeez, Josh.
Easy over there with the gas.
Yeah. All right, so...
Go ahead.
It did go like a gig per second and do, I think it was 1,600 or 16,000 4K IOPS.
Right.
Sorry, 160,000.
Oh, better.
My numbers are all messed up in my head today. But a gig per second was pretty good for a card like that.
Yeah.
That only had 2 of the controllers behind it.
Okay. Anything else from OCZ though?
OCZ had I mentioned it in the post, but there was a Linux-based caching solution for enterprise stuff that they were showing off. It's still in beta, but it's basically if you have a huge SAN, if you're an enterprise kind of person, you have a huge SAN and you want to add some speed to it, you can take a Z drive, plug it into a system, install the driver, and then, the cool part of this system though was that it's not just a regular caching thing with a really dumb driver, where the driver just looks at whatever gets accessed off of the SAN, or even if it's a regular, imagine the same thing for any kind of a hybrid caching thing for PCs, right?
Okay. Right.
Those drivers do the same kind of thing. They say, all right, this kind of stuff's being accessed. All right, I'll just put that in the cache. Well, the problem is if you have a virtual machine running or 2 on that system, that stuff gets cached, and your actual operating system stuff can't fit at the same time, so that stuff gets pushed out of the cache. That's just one example, right? Same kind of thing applies to enterprise. If you have certain kinds of background scans going on, other kind of stuff, it can roll all of your important stuff off of the cache.
Okay.
So then by the time you wanted to use it, it's not cached anymore, and you just lost your speed benefit, right?
Gotcha.
So the OCZ thing has the driver, but the driver interfaces with a user land piece of software that's scriptable, that you can say, all right, anything on this part of the hard drive or this part of the array, files that look like this, these kind of file accesses. I want you to cache those.
Okay.
And then this other kind of
So
stuff.
you can give it kind of directives.
Yeah, you can, and you can sort of
Okay.
tune it. So that's good stuff.
All right. Anything else, or move on?
From OCZ, no, that was it.
Okay. We went and saw Intel, and to talk about power stuff. I'm not going to dive too much into this because I think it's a discussion we're going to be having a lot more in the next 6 to 8 weeks. And we also posted a video. If you go to pcper.com/CES, look for the video. What was the title of it? Like just Intel Clover Trail
SoC,
power demonstration,
yeah.
something like that. Basically, they have soldered on leads to measure power consumption of SoCs, even by individual parts. So you can measure as the CPU power consumption versus GPU power consumption versus cache power consumption versus display power consumption versus everything, right? Or and add it all up. And their goal is to prove that the Clover Trail SoC is just as or more power efficient than Tegra, than Crate, than all the other ARM competitors out there, and that kind of stuff. And what they're doing is really, really interesting, and it makes Clover Trail look good, as you would expect for a demonstration that they're going to show to a bunch of people. But it seems to me, as an observer, that the science seems fairly true,
Reasonable.
yeah, and it's possible that I'll be able to get my hands on this same hardware and kind of learn how they do this kind of stuff, and maybe be able to bring that kind of testing to SoCs and even desktop parts, and when we get into the whole 7-watt Ivy Bridge stuff, a little bit of that as well. So I'll leave it at that because we're going to have a lot more discussion on it, and because it was an Intel run test and we didn't have enough background really necessarily on it, I want to kind of hold on.
Card based on the CMedia CM8828.
It's a lot of numbers and letters.
Yeah, I don't think that it supports the DD 5.1 or DTS encoding, real-time encoding, but it's still a pretty high specification sound chip. The design looks solid. They have a lot of things in there that should. I think it's got like a built-in headphone amp. A couple other nice little features. They had a little internet enabled camera,
Sure.
quick cam, that you can download a free app on your phone. You QR scan the code on the bottom of the camera, connect to the network that you're on, and it routes everything, and you can then look at the camera. And I noticed exactly how fat I was as compared to Rita.
Diamond cameras add 35 pounds.
Well, I would really hope so. They don't have any real updates yet on video cards.
There's nothing from any of the GPU guys, AMD or Nvidia partners or the GPU.
So they had a couple of little speakers that are Bluetooth enabled.
Okay.
But that's pretty much about it. The
That's
one
fair.
good and interesting thing was a USB 3.0 Gig E Ethernet adapter, which I thought was kind of neat.
We'd love to have those at the office.
Yeah.
We do a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Ultrabooks.
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 Yeah. How about
How many of
Ultrabooks,
those?
Alan? Ultrabooks?
Yeah.
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 Never mind.
Anyway.
Okay. Fair enough. We went and saw Nvidia. I don't think there's
Not
anything. We
really
can't really
anything
talk
new.
about anything that we saw. I mean,
Yeah.
there wasn't anything that we hadn't talked about. We talked about Shield. We've talked about
Grid.
We posted another video on Grid. Grid's kind of interesting, but it's not.
GeForce Experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all three of us got to play with Grid on their demos, and we weren't really super impressed.
No.
There was latency there
Yeah.
that they said shouldn't exist.
Didn't look as good as I was hoping.
The argument I have is they're comparing Grid to what the latency would be like playing on a console, and it's like the worst possible case scenario for console gaming. 130 milliseconds. I want to do this at home. If I want to get one of those high speed cameras, and just on Xbox 360 with Halo 4, pull the trigger and see when the action happens. That's what they're trying to measure as 130 milliseconds. That's a long time. I don't think that's the case. Maybe with the crappiest TV in the world ever, and you purposely tune it the wrong way or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Who would do that?
But they seem very confident, so you got to believe that there's at least something there, and we'll wait until they actually have a partner that's reselling that technology.
It's not the last we'll hear of it.
No,
By far.
No, not not at all. Let's see. Anything else from yesterday? It's hard to remember. We had a nice dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Very
Goes
nice.
out to our buddy Pelly for
Hugo Cellar.
Hugo
Awesome.
Solar.
That was awesome food.
restaurant.
We didn't feel so awesome afterwards, but hey.
No.
We took a lot of walking to get back into normal form there. So let's talk about today. Ken and I went to go see Synaptics, and we learned about touchpads.
We did.
So they have new touchpads that have a lot of pressure sensitivity stuff. They have a keyboard that is what do they call that?
Capacitive keyboard is what they're calling it.
They have a it's a company they just acquired that has the technology to do a capacitive keyboard. So like if you push down a letter a little bit harder, maybe that's a capital letter.
The keys don't have scissor clips under them.
Yeah, they don't compress anymore. Like the keys don't come down. They call it a ramp.
Yeah,
and it kind of goes in at an angle.
If you're looking at it from the top, you can see the keys slide back.
Yeah, so that way they could get smaller Z heights, thinner profiles, go into smaller and thinner devices and that kind of stuff. But
how does it feel typing on it?
Well, not very good. But it
wasn't the worst thing in the world.
It wasn't awful, but it was like very, very, very early.
Okay.
And they're talking about like the cool stuff.
I mean, it was better than typing on tacks that had been turned upside down.
Oh yeah,
a little.
Yeah.
What was a cool idea was like, so imagine on this type. I was like, what kind of cool stuff could you do with a touch capacitive keyboard, not just a trackpad, but
run faster.
She was saying that maybe we could, like if you have auto complete while you're typing, you use the space bar and you slide your thumb across the space bar to kind of like scroll across the autocomplete options and then hit space bar to complete it. Right? And it's like, okay, that's actually kind of interesting. It would be a unique way of typing again, and the idea of not using a shift key, and instead the pressure with which you hit a certain key maybe indicates if it's
so when you're really angry, you don't have to put on the caps lock. It just detects it.
The button's really hard, and then it's more accurate to your emotions, which I think is what typing needs to become.
Emotive typing.
We talked with some people there about they showed us some potential cool tech with like tablets with rear touch screens that would allow them to detect whether or not you're trying to hold a tablet versus use a tablet, right?
Yeah.
So if you get
tablets
closer,
with really thin bezels.
Yeah, how do you hold it without accidentally clicking or hitting interfaces? And they can do that based on where your fingers are on the back and that kind of stuff. Interesting tech there. We'll see more of that at Mobile World Congress, they said. What did you see at Sapphire?
Again, no real new GPUs, though, that they're pushing their VaporX stuff. They're one of the few guys to really have this technology and are utilizing it, though. Other people do, but not as much as Sapphire. Sure. Mini PCs are what they're wanting to get into. I believe they had all the Edge VS8, Edge VS4. These are Trinity-based parts. They're small. They're inexpensive. They're based on ITX. It's mobile power, mobile products.
Right.
So, still they run pretty quick. I think 1.6 gigahertz for the quad, 1.9 gigahertz for the dual core, and with the graphics involved, they're nice little productivity machines. They don't come with an OS, don't come with an optical drive. And again, pretty inexpensive.
They've been doing that for a while. They and Zotac are the companies that have kind of reimagined themselves away from being simple AIBs, added board partners, to trying to do very specific.
So they had a couple of nice examples of those products there. But
we have a post PCPro.com/CES on that stuff too.
Yeah.
Ooh, Josh
check it
wrote
out.
That one.
Yeah. Ooh,
yeah.
Productivity. I has it.
Well, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
I went and visited Intel, but we talked about it on the first podcast or the second podcast, one of the other ones, about kind of what they announced with the 7-watt Ivy Bridge and all that kind of stuff. And I think most of the other things that we talked about, we talked a little bit about the NUC, the problems that I had with it, kind of the locking up. They have fixes for it. The SSD that they sent us turned out to be a pre-production SSD, and it didn't have some thermal throttling on it that it was supposed to have that would slow down if it was getting too hot, essentially. So that was they decided was the culprit the lockups on that machine. So we got another one of those to re-verify and test and that kind of stuff. We learned a little bit about some other cool things we can't tell you yet, just in terms of processor timing and now all that kind of good stuff. But they talked about Haswell at the press conference, right?
Hey,
they said
there's going to be new Intel processors.
There's going to be new Intel processors. Everybody, be prepared. And then as a result, new motherboards.
Whoa, earth shattering.
It's going to have better processing than the last one.
No way.
Scoop.
Are they
Better-
going to have
better
more
graphics?
SATA 6G ports?
They did not say. They're excited about what they're doing in their UFEI BIOS implementation. They are really, their board team is very excited about what they're doing, and they have a lot of opportunities to make up ground. Like, really, if you look at it, the only company that I would say I'm really impressed with what they're doing with UFEI is Asus.
Yeah, I think that they really have the best implementation.
But even there, it's not. I don't know how to say it, but it's just not designed in a new way yet. And Intel, they don't care. They'll go free form on it, and they've done some really cool stuff. And I think from what I heard that they're planning some cool stuff with this next iteration of boards.
Okay.
Other than that, was there anything else that we talked about that we can talk about? I don't think so.
No, not really.
It was more of a checkup for us on the review schedules of things and trying to get that out. They have a large booth as well. Did you see the Cooler Master?
We did see the Cooler Master and Rajiv.
That's right, our good friend.
Rajiv is there now. So
what'd they have for us?
they had a lot of cases.
Okay.
No, they started out showing me the mobile stuff, which are all the kind of lap pads, the notebook coolers. Mm-hmm. They've got some, they had one that's a cushiony lap board with a fan in the middle, but it's got vents all around the side, so it's not like trying to blow through the stinking cushion that you're, got in between the...
Right.
Yeah. So we saw that, and then we went to the keyboards, and they support all the Cherry MX switches, but they have a new one. They are the only manufacturer in North America that are shipping and are allowed to ship the Cherry Green.
Ooh. Are they made of like cornstarch plastic?
Energy efficient?
Yeah. No.
Can you eat them?
No, that's just the color of them. But what it is their version of the buckle spring keyboard from the old IBM era. So when you click the keyboards, I mean, it's got the push pop, and
Is it noticeably loud?
yes, but it's awesome.
Is that when you want people to know you're being productive?
I am typing my ass off.
Listen here,
Type
boss.
like the wind.
It's a complete opposite of that capacitive keyboard.
Exactly, and it feels really good.
Reversion.
And they're going to be shipping those things here soon, and I would be kind of excited about it if I like mechanical keyboards.
Okay. All right.
They had some updates on the Centurion cases. Mm-hmm. They didn't show anything like a Cosmos 3 or they have the half ones, don't they? Cooler Master half.
Yeah.
HAF.
Oh yeah. Oh, HAF. Yeah. I was thinking
No
HAF.
updates on that. They are starting to produce their own water coolers. They're not Acetec.
Cool.
There's some design things that they feel are much more important than what Acetec does. Like the hoses are more expensive type than the rubber ones, Acetec, and almost as flexible, but supposedly will last a whole lot longer.
Gotcha.
So yeah, a couple of new cases. Nothing really exciting, but people are starting to do a lot more of the pre-integrated water cooling stuff, and that seems to be the direction a lot of them are heading into.
As we record this, I noticed that we're creeping up on our time that we would usually record this live, and I can see
Let's
based on
see
our
what
web
the chat room says.
Our web traffic is there's a lot of people on our live page. We're not streaming this live, so those of you listening to this after the fact, I apologize. But I did take it off the schedule, I guess, about an hour and a half ago or something like that.
Do we have a note up there or something?
No
No, I
one's
just
complaining in the chat yet.
Well,
Yeah.
that's because we're still a couple of minutes from actually starting. They will in a little bit.
I will get this up real fast.
We'll get it up. We'll get it out there quickly so that they can. Maybe we'll just embed that on the live page, and they can hit play and then see how long it takes them to figure out that we just
It's
didn't
not
start
live.
an hour late.
It's like it's live, but it's
recorded.
Memorex.
Okay, that's cool. We went and saw Caustic, which was a ray tracing place, but now is owned by Imagination.
Interesting.
Same guys that own
Imagination.
PowerVR.
Yep. PowerVR.
That's the graphics in your iPad and your iPhone and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
Samsung SoCs and that kind of deal. I'll do a post on that. There's nothing really kind of different about what they've done. They have their ray tracing accelerator. The guy I met today, who's kind of their product lead, was one of the guys that invented iRay at Nvidia. iRay was the Nvidia-based GPU ray tracing.
Oh.
Is the NVIDIA-based GPU.
Still, and he came over to Caustic. For like $1,400, $1,500, which is cheap in the professional world, you can get a dual processor card with 16 gigs of memory on it.
Wow.
And they could do that because it's DDR2 memory. Because their algorithms don't require high memory bandwidth, they just need high capacity. They don't have to go down very deep trees of that kind of stuff. And it's really cool. They showed Maya running with real-time ray trace viewports and that kind of deal. It doesn't really mean much to you if you don't follow that kind of software, but it's a big deal for developers, that kind of stuff. So we'll have a news post up on that, and it's kind of interesting to see what they're going to do with ray tracing technology that they've developed and putting it in mobile parts that PowerVR is known for, and then they're also going to figure out how to have PowerVR reach out into higher end component levels as well. So maybe you'll see a discrete PowerVR
Again?
card.
After nearly 15 years?
Yeah.
The Cairo was the last.
I don't know.
Cairo 2.
We also saw Lian Li. They
They're crazy about mini ITX.
they have a lot of new cases. Mini ATX, full-size ATX, micro ATX. They had a surprisingly small case for a full-size ATX system as well.
Yeah, that was pretty small.
Most aluminum. They had like one really cheap one that was steel and one really expensive one that was about the size of a mini fridge and that kind of deal. So we'll have a post out from that. Lian Li makes some good stuff, but they tend to not update or iterate very quickly.
No.
But they had 5 or 6 new things there, so that's exciting. Did we see anything at Kingston that we want to talk about?
There was nothing. They had some demos going on, showing some. They put like 16 SSDs in one box behind a beefy RAID card, and
Nice.
showing crazy high throughput, like 6 gigabytes per second. Or
Did they defrag it?
yeah, of course. They
Yes.
ran the defrag, just like, what was that, LSI that did that crazy demo? Or
Well, it wasn't LSI. It was,
No,
it was some PC magazine.
yeah, I don't know.
That
what
they
that
got
is.
sent 16 of the.
Look, we can run
X25s.
defrag, and it goes
Look
so
how
fast.
fast.
Yes,
And you hear just thousands of geeks crying.
yes.
And
Don't
then-
defrag that.
From-
They were just showing some product
Some of their
demos. and
existing
stuff.
technologies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we threw the 1 terabyte flash drive at each other a couple times, see how badly we could bruise.
Did you hit anybody in the head with it?
Did you steal it?
If I did, I'd be in jail right now.
Not if you're
I thought of stealing it, but they were dummy samples.
Oh.
Yeah.
Damn it. All right.
well.
How about an EVGA? You said they had a case.
They
EVGA is
have
making
two
a case.
cases. Yeah, they're micro ATX or I think they're micro ATX. They could
Mini
be
ITX.
Mini ITX. Yeah, I think they're more mini ITX, but they will support micro ITX.
Okay. All right.
And also one air cooled, one water cooled. Note I said water cooling. This is pre-installed water cooling stuff. Very easy to recharge the reservoir.
Okay.
Has a little level on the side as well that you can look at it. See, they have a low profile 500 watt power supply that they're making special for these. The air cooled one can fit as big of a video card as you could ever want to put in. The water cooling, it's a little bit smaller because the radiator is inside, so that takes up some
right.
space. Otherwise, nice looking little cases. They're going to be, I think, a second quarter product. Price is not disclosed at this moment. They have a new X79 board that they're coming out with, a little bit more high-end features than their current one.
Cool.
So it'll support like 8 DIMMs, 6 ports, dual Intel Ethernet, Gigi Ethernet, bunch of USB 3.0, and the ability to do quad SLI. So it's a big board, but it's not one of those, EATX or the enhanced.
It's not a dual processor. Or
No.
Right.
Jeremy will be so disappointed.
Yeah, and then they haven't done a whole lot of refreshes on their video cards. They still have the classified stuff. They have the water-cooled one there, which is a massive, massive card, and that thing is pretty heavy. I guess the first iterations of some of their water-cooled stuff were so heavy it would bend the PCB way too much, and eventually they just stopped working. But they said they solved
No, that's not
most of those things.
That's good.
Yeah, but it's still a heavy card, and boy, yeah.
All right. We went and saw Antec. They have one new case coming out. Military is apparently the theme of the year.
Apparently.
Military themed cases and designs, that kind of stuff. It has a really cool like switch that you have to like flip up a cover on to change the fan speed.
Yeah.
That's really handy.
Not even for the reset button or something?
No.
Because that would make sense.
I agree.
Those are just on the front where you could knock
So
on
your
them
kids can just
pretty
run
easily.
right into
Yeah.
those.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
I agree.
Protect that fan speed.
Great. It's a good looking case. You can tell that they're getting hints from all the new case designs. With they're doing some different cable routing in the back. They're doing some stuff like they turn the drive cages around backwards.
Yeah,
so like the
I
handles,
actually think that's a pretty good idea.
handles face the backside, so the cable color still comes out the back, but it just looks neat and clean at the front, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
They had a lot of audio accessories.
You need some Bluetooth speakers?
You need Bluetooth speakers? You need headphones?
No.
Headphones?
Not
Bluetooth
from
speakers?
Antec. I don't.
Antec makes them.
Well,
I want to know when they're getting into the cell phone case business.
I hope
be-
they
Because
don't.
you know what? That's
clock's ticking.
That'll be
yeah.
next.
There's so little competition in that space.
Yeah. So they had a new case there. We'll have a post up on that as well. That was one of our last meetings today. And then Gigabyte. We went and saw Gigabyte. They had a really cool demonstration of a 4K display configuration, but not a single monitor. They had 4 1080p displays set up, right, to make a 3840 by 2160 monitor. And the interesting thing was they were using their dual Thunderbolt motherboard output. Each Thunderbolt port was being split into 2 display port connections, mini DP, going into these monitors. And this was all being handled and kind of configured in a multi-display setup by what was the Intel
Mosaic? No, not Mosaic.
It wasn't Mosaic. It was a piece of Intel software now that is
like clusters, some verb like that.
So was it driving it from the Intel onboard?
it was driving it all by from the HD 4000 graphics.
Wow.
No discrete graphics in the
4K
system
video
at all.
playback.
Yeah, they were doing some 4K video playback and that kind of stuff. They had a one of the Blackmagic, what is that camera called?
Blackmagic cinema camera.
Cinema camera on display as well, like hooked up to another. It has a Thunderbolt output going into a motherboard as well. The 4K display stuff was really cool. It's not as cool as having an actual 4K display. But they were just kind of demonstrating, here's some of the stuff that Thunderbolt will enable and can enable. In later iterations of it, you'll be able to do, single mini display port, single display port connection for 4K resolution. And then some of the images they showed, just really high res stuff, looked good, and they weren't using cheap monitors.
No,
on that display, they were
pro-calibrated
HP
monitors,
Pro professional looking monitors, and they did. Yeah, it looked pretty sweet. Then they showed a couple of motherboards for the new thin mini ITX platform, which is something Intel has defined so that all-in-one PCs can be put together very easily. So you'll be able to buy a bare bones system that includes the display, heating, or not heating. You don't want the heating units. You want the cooling integrated into it, webcam integrated into it, mic integrated into it, and then you buy your motherboard, you buy your processor, you buy what memory you want. They use SODIMMs, they use fewer connections on the side and that kind of stuff. So it's both for OEMs to be able to standardize, and then for the idea of a DIY all-in-one picking up steam again. So or not again, but ever. was kind of interesting to see, but it kind of, Intel kind of limits the creativity that any motherboard vendors can have because your processor has to be in this exact spot on the motherboard. This has, these different components all have to be here and in this kind of design pattern in order to, because the chassis will have the cooling built into it, it all has to be in the same spot, right? Otherwise,
It doesn't really work.
Incompatibilities between the displays and the configurations and that kind of stuff. So we got some of that. We posted a video up of the 4K display and that kind of, and the Thin Mini ITX as well. Let's see, Western Digital. We wanted to talk about Western Digital real quick.
Post is up, actually.
Okay.
Western Digital has 5mm,
The judge of that.
5mm hard drives in up to 500 gigabyte capacity. Now, 500 millimeters is pretty darn thin.
Not 500 millimeters.
Or 5 millimeters.
Okay.
Wow, definitely been a long day. 500 gig, 5mm hard drive. That's just a one platter. So
Okay.
you got 500 gig on one platter.
Yeah.
On one 2.5-inch platter. It's pretty good, right?
And what does that mean? Is this so 5mm, 7mm hard drives are for what?
Okay, so
Smaller form
Ultrabooks.
factor Ultrabooks and
Yeah,
stuff?
it's basically
Without
an
having to
Ultrabook.
use the bubblegum stick thing?
Correct.
Okay. For that.
So now along that line, you might think, all right, well, it's a hard drive. It's going to be much slower than a solid state drive. Well, they have a fix for that too. So the 5mm drive, that's 500 gig, is available in a blue, which is the regular standard kind of hard drive. And then they have a black solid state hard drive. So this is a 24 gig cache flash memory backing up the, or speeding up the 500 gig drive, right?
So this is a hybrid drive.
That's a hybrid drive from
Okay.
Western Digital. And then if you want to go higher in capacity, you have to add another platter. So that's 7mm drive, but it's up to 1 terabyte, and it's available the same two options. You can have a blue, which is just a hard drive, or a black, which is the SSHD.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it all depends on how fast they are when we actually test them.
Okay.
Just like anything else, right? It's it all depends on how well it's controlled and how well the caching works.
Are they doing anything different than the other, like the Seagate SSDs and that kind of stuff, or is it just larger cache?
I imagine this is going to work very similar to the Seagate.
Okay.
What I hope is going to happen is that, when Seagate first started this, their controller did not work very well. It didn't really ramp up at all when you piled the IOs on it.
Okay.
If it was for cached IO, it didn't really accelerate that much faster if you gave it more heads up and, hey, I need more of these requests at the same time, right? So the more you piled on it, it just basically got backlogged, just like a regular hard drive does to some extent.
Gotcha.
In other words, command queuing went out the window. And then the most recent Seagate, the 750 gig Momentous, I think it was the Momentous XT.
Yeah.
That one handled that kind of stuff pretty well. So it worked more like an SSD when it was doing cached type stuff. So what I hope is that this drive from Western Digital is they got that part right of it, right,
Out of the gate.
right out of the gate.
Okay.
We don't know yet because we haven't tested one yet.
Do we know when we'll get those drives?
We do not.
Do we know? So we don't know when they're going to be available or anything like that.
Correct. Not only that, but the feel that I got was that this is more of an OEM.
Right. I was going to ask that. This is not a retail
I
kind of
don't.
availability.
I
There's not
don't think so. I hope it becomes one because the Seagate you could buy,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and there are people that buy the Momentous XT and put it in a desktop.
What is
even.
the size of a Momentous XT? Is it 7?
750?
No, millimeter height.
Oh, the height? I think it's 9.
9. So I guess the 5 and 7 are going to have a price premium, right, from Western Digital. Like they're going to be more expensive than your standard 9.
Well, right,
millimeter,
because
2.5-inch drive.
Yeah, because you're trying to squeeze it into something even smaller.
Yeah. Did they say that they're going to have like maybe a less expensive 9mm version of
There was
their
no
hybrid drive?
talk of anything
Okay.
other than those two.
Because that's what I would expect to see in a retail channel. Because, if Ultrabooks aren't known to be upgradable type of thing,
right.
so there may not be any kind of demand for a 5mm SSD retail or
True.
SSD hard drive retail. And if you're building a system, are there going to be better options?
Yeah.
They're going to be cheaper because of you could technically install one of these in a desktop system, right?
You could.
There's nothing to stop you from doing
No,
that.
the connectors are standard.
But does it make sense? And maybe I don't know. I mean, we'll see how they perform and whether or not it makes sense what the cost per gig is and how well their caching is. But they didn't say anything about
Right.
the specific software that they're using for that.
It's not software.
Okay.
It's all in the drive.
Okay.
So similar to the Momentus XT is the same thing. It's all in the drive.
All right, it handles all that on the drive.
It's the controller for the hard drive has some sort of thing off to the side that caches stuff. Yep.
Interesting.
Anything else from WD out there?
No, everything else is the same as it ever was.
Networking stuff, that was they were talking about, that kind of deal?
They still have it's the same routers that they announced. That was a while back.
Right.
Yeah, nothing new there.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I mean, that's kind of gone through all the meetings. Well, let's talk about real quick about the whole Steambox stuff.
Do we know anything?
Well, that's what I'm going to talk about. Is we don't really know, because yesterday we didn't record a podcast yesterday, but yesterday the big news was that XI3 was coming out as being the maker of the Steambox, right? XI3 we saw last year and the year before that making these kind of modular PCs, and that there was going to be one that was Trinity based with 1 terabyte SSD.
Well, that was their Kickstarter that failed
for about $1,000. But something, I guess Engadget or The Verge or somebody had read something that this was going to be the Steambox. Valve was here and they had talked to some people about it, but then today I saw a story that was that said basically Valve said that there's not going to be a hardware announcement in 2013.
Yeah, it seems like they're going to partner with a lot of people and kind of let.
Well, no, but see that one thing that he said is they're going to make one. Other people will make theirs, but he will make one.
Yeah, but their message hasn't been exactly the most jointed thing.
Yeah,
this week.
I think they will have their own. I just don't think we know what it is yet. And I think maybe some people jumped to the conclusion that it was going to be that. And it's possible that XI3 is one of those things that is a version of it, but it is not their version of it.
I think that's most likely.
I think the idea that somehow Valve would offer a Steambox with a Trinity integrated graphics, A6, which is okay, it's fine, but with a 1 terabyte solid state drive, and it would be quote unquote under $1,000 is nuts. Right? In my opinion, for a Steambox, which is going to be based around gaming, at least heavily, maybe not exclusively, other applications as well, you're spending your money in the wrong spot there, right? You don't need a
terabyte of solid, not solid state,
right? Of solid state, you need a faster graphics card, and it's cool and it's small and all that great stuff. But if that was what the Steambox turned out to be, I'd be very disappointed.
Yeah,
I mean, you can build a small form factor $500 computer that would outperform that very well, except in the SSD arena
and the size difference.
Yeah.
What's the i3 showing is really small.
That's true. That's true.
More like Nook size.
You could actually still, even storage-wise, you could still do well, because you could have the Intel caching and a small SSD and a 1 terabyte laptop hard drive stuck in there.
Yeah. So I think as of yesterday, at the end of yesterday, we all thought there was this big thing that was happening with Steam, and we were on the edge of getting all this new information. And then as it turned out,
no one knows.
Today, that's probably all crap, right? Or at least partial stuff. So,
yep.
Anything else that you guys saw that we maybe didn't? I skipped over here for some reason or another.
I got nothing.
No.
Velocity Micro has tablets. But they showed they have an all-in-one system. They finally have an Ultrabook. That it's a little bit beefier, a little bit bigger than the usual Ultrabooks, because they wanted to have a optical drive in there.
Who uses optical drives anymore?
Not I.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll watch a movie now and then on DVD.
DVD?
DVD. They had a new gaming platform computer. Starts around $2,500. But it's a little underpowered for the price, but it's a really nice aluminum chassis, some water cooling stuff in there. They're the closed loop systems. They had a basic system, but then, they had tablets. And one of the more interesting ones, I believe it's a 9-inch tablet or a 10-inch. But it's got the quad-core A15 from All Winning?
Yes.
All Winning.
Yes.
It's a great name.
Yeah,
it's A7 based.
Oh,
it's
the A7. Yeah, he said it was A15, but
no,
I was wondering what the heck that was about.
If that's the same SoC they just announced, I've seen a couple Chinese design ones. It's quad-core A7.
A7, which is a less complex design than the A9, but it's lower power, and they can clock it a little bit higher. So it's running at like 1.5 gigahertz, quad core, 1.5 gigahertz, decent graphics on it. And the best part is it's I think it's 2 gigs of memory and 16 gigs of storage.
Yeah.
And it's $249, and it's got an IPS display. Running
What? Really?
4.11.
That's the thing about this SoC.
It's cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The all-winner A31 is what I think the...
All winner.
we're talking
All
about here.
winner. And they have a less expensive version that has the dual core.
Nice.
Okay.
So it's they have some products. They're interesting.
All right.
Nice price point.
So what do you guys think about CES this year? Now that we're wrapping up. Everybody's going home tomorrow.
My feet are tired.
You're tired. You're tired. If they're not tired, you did something wrong. Right?
Yeah.
So
Or you have a hover round.
That would be nice.
Segue?
such a great
Did they,
idea.
they announced that?
Did they announce
Hover round CES
Yeah.
version.
Match world's biggest traffic jam.
If I trip over one more person's pull behind suitcase,
Yeah, right.
Those are the worst things
God,
ever.
I just
see
wanted to
those
pick
and-
them up and throw them at their face. And then they turn around and look at you like you're the ass.
Yeah.
Watch for my bag. That's dragging 8 inches above the floor. Idiots.
3 feet behind me.
Yeah.
So I'm taking up 3 times the
3
space.
people worth of space.
Yeah.
Yeah, a floor space. People don't get it. People don't get it.
It's just not right.
I guess that's it. If you guys go to pcper.com/CES, you can see all the posts. There's a lot of stuff we're not covering completely here. And if you want to read Josh's analysis on the Intel side thing or the AMD side thing, there's a lot more details there than we kind of talked about here. Ken and I did a lot of videos as well. I'd like you guys check those out and kind of give us some feedback on all that kind of stuff. And yeah, there's still some things that we need to write up. Right, so we've got the Crucial Micron stuff tomorrow.
Yep, it's an NDA.
That'll be NDA'd up tomorrow. I have some things I need to post up still, and then we have this podcast to post as well.
Oh, boy.
Ken's excited about that. One more video for you to edit, and then RSS and all that other kind of cool stuff. Sweet. So I guess that's going to be it for CES 2013, live from the PC Perspective Suite with the wall,
the pimp suite,
the mirror wall.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, if they could just see how big this place is. I
know.
mean, we
It's
can't turn around the webcam.
It's about 2,000 square feet.
It's gigantic. It's like 3 stories.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 And the dancing girls have been very quiet.
Yeah, I mean,
throughout the entire.
They can do that
very
silently.
impressed.
Yeah. We had them turn off the music for at least a little bit.
Grease the poles.
Right? Yeah, they got to clean
the
stuff up.
tassels are nice. You did a nice job on choosing the color coordination.
I thought it would go with the red and the purple behind
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys. We will we'll see you next week with a regular at-home Skype version edition of the PC Perspective podcast. Thank God. I'm Ryan Shrout.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Alan Mamatano.
And I'm creeped out.
Yeah, I am too.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Not often I get to rub elbows with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.